All right, so this week we're going to be talking about the cell cycle and mitosis and hopefully meiosis. We'll see where we get. But in order to talk about those things, we kind of need to know a few more details before we can sort of get there. And sort of the first thing that we need to talk about is these things called chromosomes. They are called chromosomes. And so what is a chromosome? Maybe you've heard of this before. Maybe you kind of already have an idea. But let me just draw a cell here. And we'll say that this is one of your cells or one of my cells. So it has a nucleus and then maybe like some endoplasmic reticulum or whatever. And then maybe put some ribosomes out here and put some mitochondria and maybe some Golgi. Anyway, this is a eukaryotic cell, and that's going to be important shortly. So keep that in mind. This is a eukaryotic cell. So here's the nucleus right here. And what's inside the nucleus? Hopefully you're aware that inside the nucleus is a whole bunch of DNA. And normally the DNA inside of your cell spends its time unspooled. It spends its time just sort of loosely sitting inside of the nucleus. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of used to seeing chromosomes that look something like this. If you've ever seen the 23andMe service. This is when you usually see chromosomes, and this is going to be involved in what we talk about today. But your DNA spends most of its time unspooled in the DNA like this. This is called chromatin, by the way. This is a whole bunch of unspooled DNA and protein, but this is chromatin. But you can think of it like this. The metaphor I like to think of as this is a whole bunch of yarn that you've let your cat play with. Okay, and this is when you take that yarn and you make it into something that's actually real. This is not to scale, by the way. The chromosomes in this particular cell would probably be more like that size, just fairly tiny, because this is a fairly tiny cell. But chromosomes are packets of your DNA, and they're made out of chromatin, and when you spool them up, when you take all that yarn and make it into something, it starts to look like this. Human beings, you may be aware, have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which means we have a total of 46. 23 pairs of chromosomes, like 23andMe, we have a total of 46. Okay, this is because human beings are what is referred to as we are diploid. Okay, we are diploid organisms, but, and we're going to talk about this later, I just kind of want to plant the seed. If you have half of your genetic information, you are haploid. Hap, like half. Okay, so your DNA all spooled up here, or just hanging out, actually unspooled inside of your nucleus. This is a chromosome, which is a packet of your DNA. The other thing that I wanted to talk about for a moment here was the idea of a gene. Okay, so let's talk about a gene. So I just said we have 23 pairs that we are diploid organisms, and so let me draw those. Let's just say we're going to zoom in and look at, I don't know, chromosome 17. So there's the copy that I got from, we'll say, my mom. And I don't know how well you can see the colors here, but we'll put this chromosome here. This is the copy of chromosome 17 that I got from my dad. So this is my paternal copy. This is my maternal copy. Okay, and again, we have 23 of these sets, all right? This one I got from my dad. This one I got from my mom. If we were to look at one location on one of these, what are referred to as homologous chromosomes, okay, so just kind of baseline, homo meaning the same, okay. Let's look at this spot right here and the corresponding spot right here on mom's chromosome. They're both my chromosomes, but this is the chromosome I got from my mom. Here is the gene I got from my dad to be, we'll say, this is the gene I got from my dad that says that I have big feet. This is made up. There isn't actually like one Bigfoot gene, but it doesn't matter. And I have pretty big feet, so I also got a gene from my mom here that says I have big feet. Cool. I got my two Bigfoot genes here. But just because I got one version from my dad doesn't mean I got the same version from my mom. Let's look at another gene here. So we're going to look at this spot here, and we're going to look at the corresponding spot here. So here is the gene I got from my mom to be tall. Okay, there's my mom's tall gene here, and here is the gene I got from my dad to be short. So there's my dad's short gene, which would explain why I'm somewhat of a medium person, but we're going to talk about how genetics work later on. What I'm getting at here is that I have these two chromosomes. I got the one that I got from my mom here, and I got the one that I got from my dad here. And even though I got them from different places, they contain similar genes in similar locations. Okay, so a gene is just, you could think of it as a particular region on a chromosome that codes for a particular thing. Okay, and so here is the gene, here is the homologous chromosome I got from my mom. Here is the homologous chromosome that I got from my dad. Okay, and I know this is very abstract, but these are kind of ideas that you need to be having in your head for the rest of the lecture. Let's do the book does like a more concrete one, and so we'll do a more concrete one. So actually, let's just look at a whole new chromosome. Okay, here's chromosome 5. There's the copy I got from my dad. Here's the copy I got from my mom, and I'm not totally sure about the accuracy of this particular gene. I don't know if it actually takes place on chromosome 5 or not, but that's okay. This is just for an example. So my dad is type O positive blood, and so he gave me this gene to be type O blood. Hopefully you guys have heard of the ABO blood typing. If you haven't, that's okay. We're going to circle back. But my dad gave me this gene to be type O, and my mom gave me this gene to be type B. This is the particular gene that I happen to have gotten from my mom. And so my particular trait, or the characteristic that I have from my genes, I'll put trait up here. Okay, that's a term you should know, is I am type B. I am type B blood. The O doesn't count, and we're going to circle back to this. So I'm going to redraw your cell really quick. You got your cell here. We have the nucleus. You have all of these chromosomes that are uncoiled in here. And that is as opposed to, this is a eukaryotic cell. This is a eukaryotic cell, as opposed to prokaryotes, which are much smaller. And you should remember their DNA just kind of hangs out in the middle in a region called the nucleoid. But actually, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and draw the prokaryotic cell a little bit bigger because they do something kind of interesting, which again, you should know about, but we are going to circle back. So let's blow that prokaryotic cell. So here is its nucleoid, which uncoiled DNA in here. But they also have this incredible structure called a plasmid. And we're going to come back to this, but this is an extra piece of DNA that a prokaryotic cell can add to itself to do extra things. So you have what's called genomic DNA. Prokaryotes have this kind of DNA that is, this is, by the way, even though it's uncoiled, is actually circular. Yours is not circular. It can be condensed into those chromosomes, those discrete units. And prokaryotes can add these little plasmid things as well.